Tuesday, January 7th. Happy New Year. First meeting of the year. Council Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Calling the roll, Ms. Brown.
Here.
Mr. Gallagher. Here. Mr. Jones. Mr. Jones is absent at the moment. Mr. Miller.
Here.
Ms. Conwell.
Here.
There is a quorum.
I'd like to make a motion to excuse Councilman Jones. He did notify us that he would be unable to attend. Is there a second? It's been moved in second. Are there any questions, comments, or concerns? If there being none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, while that is not required, if the member does make an effort to let us know, I'd like to make sure that is reflected in the record. Is there any public comment?
No, Madam Chair, no one is signed in.
All right, then I will move to approve the minutes from the December 3rd meeting. Do we have a second?
Second.
It's been moved in second. If there are no questions, comments, or concerns, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, Council Clerk, if you read the first item into the record, please.
Resolution number 2019-0266, confirming the county executive's appointment of Terry A. Augusta to serve on the Gateway Economic Development Corporation of Greater Cleveland Board of Trustees for an unexpired term ending 5/31/2022.
I'll turn it over to Director Pomerantz so she can give us a little bit of background.
Great. Thank you. On behalf of the county executive, we are pleased to nominate Terry Augusta for an unexpired term ending 5/31/2022 for the Greater Cleveland Board of Trustees Gateway Economic and Development Corporation. Gateway is an Ohio nonprofit corporation established pursuant to the Ohio Revised Code, Section 307.696, and the Board of Trustees of this corporation is composed of representatives from the City of Cleveland as well as Cuyahoga County. Ms. Augusta's resume is there for your review, and she is here today to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for Ms. Pomerantz from the committee?
Yes.
Councilman Miller.
Who is Miss Augusta succeeding?
Mr. William Reedy, who has decided to step away from the board.
Okay.
Any further questions? There being none, if Ms. Augusta will please step forward, state your name for the record, give us a little bit of background, and tell us why you'd like to serve.
Okay, great. Happy New Year, everybody. Terry Augusta. I'm the general manager of the Hilton downtown Cleveland, one of your most successful projects, I must add. I moved here, as everybody knows, from Phoenix to Cleveland, and it's just been so exciting to be a part of really, I just say, the sparkle of Cleveland, bringing in a lot of new visitors and tourism. I think what I'm going to bring to this board is just the passion for hospitality and tourism. And I think that's important, especially in our sporting arenas, because we don't want to become too utilitarian. I think what we've seen happen here in Cleveland is directly attributed to a certain level of trust that people are going to come into Cleveland and really appreciate what it has to offer. The culinary offerings, the Museum of Rock and Roll, and then our sports venues. We are a sports town. We're one of the few towns in the entire nation that you can walk to all three sporting arenas. And I think it's very important that we use that to bring new visitors and new dollars into the city and county. So we're very excited. I'm very excited to be a part of that because I do think that passion for hospitality and the visitor and making sure that it's guest friendly is important. And I know when I came to the hotel, everybody was so worried about the bones and the structure and what is the hotel going to look like. I remember my first tour, I went out to the street and I walked in and they said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm walking in like a guest." And they're like, "Oh, well, we really never thought about that." So I think just those little, subtle touches of what does the guest really want, Are the bathrooms right? Is the lighting right? Are people comfortable? Is food addressing everybody? Just those little things that are going to bring people coming back and forth. So I think I'll bring a different flavor to that board.
Excellent. So you've been in your role for quite some time now. What challenges have you experienced at the Hilton?
Well, Cleveland is an evolving city, and we want the number one reason that people do not choose Cleveland, maybe is a better way to look at it, is that you have to stay in a lot of different hotels and things are spread out. So we want to try, on many of the boards I sit on in Destination Cleveland and Downtown Alliance, we're trying to get more of a continuity of how we all work together. One of the things I'm working on now is Hotel Row, St. Clair, how if you can visually see how close all the hotels are through landscaping, banners, signage, lighting, meaning the Westin, the Drury, the Marriott, and the Hilton, you'll be more apt to bring your meeting here because it seems really more of a flow. Going over to 4th Street, it still can be a little scary to go over to 4th Street. How do we get there? The waterfront, just kind of bringing everybody together so that we look more, just put together as a region. I'm going to Austin this weekend, and it is on personal, but I'll study, what are they doing right to get everybody there, right? And making it look like this is downtown. Like if you're asked to define downtown right now, how would we do that?
So more cohesive, making it a little
Yes,
bit
more cohesive, exactly, Chantel, is what I'm hoping to do. And just clearing the path to the sporting arenas, too. A lot of our guests, and I only use us as an example because I think everybody thinks like that. Like, how do you get to, Progressive Field? How do you get to Rocket? And is there a brighter path? Is there something that's clearer that leads people there? Is there something that we can do to enhance visitors to stay longer? A lot of what we do, too, is just don't come in for one event, stay 1 and 2 days.
So how, this might be a question, and this will be my last question, but how has the Justice Center, being your neighbor, impacted the hotel, if at all, or what?
Well, in a lot of ways, it's valuable space, right? So we would prefer to see something that would be more guest-friendly with retail in a vibrant setting. That being said, as you know, we run a lot of second chance programs, so a lot of my team members come from there. So we work with them, training on hospitality, training on sexual harassment in the workplace. We actually go there and teach a lot of the classes we teach at Hilton, so that they understand what the corporate world looks like. We have a lot of success stories. I can only tell you, it's very heartwarming. So from that point of view, obviously, we are committed to continue being woven into the fabric of Cleveland and the whole demographic of Cleveland. But our guests certainly would prefer something that would have retail, that would have maybe a movie theater, that would have something, there's no retail down here, and that's really the hardest thing. If you need a belt, if a guest needs something, it's hard.
Okay, all right, I'll open it up to my colleagues. Any questions? Councilman Miller?
Good morning. Thank you very much for coming in and for your willingness to serve. A couple years back, as everyone knows, we did a major project involving what is now the Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse, and it was successful, but also quite controversial, and a lot of questions were raised as to what the appropriate roles of the private and public sectors are in regard to a project like this, and I foresee on the relatively short horizon we're going to have to deal with questions regarding the baseball stadium, and my question is whether you have any ideas on how that should be structured so that so that the public feels comfortable with it in terms of the role of the various players.
Yes, absolutely, because I think we've done a great job of melding, a county project with a corporation and showing that marriage could be successful. And the way to do it is get as many people involved as possible, particularly the people that aren't quite as convinced of what you're doing is right. And one thing we do with all of our team members is we teach them about the ripple effect. And the ripple effect is when you are doing great service to our guests, what are they going to want to do? They're going to want to come back, and they're going to want to bring their meetings. And when they bring their meetings, we're going to get busier. Restaurants are going to get busier. Bars are going to get busier. Everything's going to get busier. And what are we going to have to do? We're going to have to hire your sister, your brother, your cousin. And you are going to be responsible personally, because of delivering good service, for the economic fortitude of Cleveland. So we get people to get some skin in the game, right? So we want all of people involved with the project, and particularly to understand that we are creating a ripple effect here. And when something is positive and when something is economically successful, everybody around it will be economically successful, meaning the rest things you never thought of: restaurants, taxis, bars, shoemakers, everyone, that's coming down here as residents are coming down. So I think it's really understanding that it's bigger than Progressive Field. It's all about, the fortitude and the strength of the residents.
You mentioned the Alliance and Destination Cleveland. Are there other boards and commissions that you sit on?
Well, I was most recently on Gordon Square Arts District. As you know, that was dissolved because of mission accomplished, right? We did a great job there. I live in Gordon Square, so I live in the city. And I think that is a really good example of getting a group together, really branding an area, Gordon Square Arts District. And, part of what I do is try to connect that with the city and the county. When you go to New York, you go to Greenwich Village, you go down to Battery Park, the neighborhoods are very vibrant. And that's what we need to create here in Cleveland is, Tremont, Gordon Square, Ohio City, the waterfront, creating these little enclaves that people can go to, the sporting district here, and feel like they're going somewhere else. And that, the Rock and Roll Museum is great, and I'm a huge fan of it, but we need to give people to come back, a reason to come back more than just that, right? So just really giving more bandwidth to the city, and I think that's what we need to show about Progressive, that it has the ability to create more bandwidth. Baseball is a whole different fan base than basketball, and a whole different fan base than football. And one thing is, there's 400 games, right? So it goes forever. So, which is great. So you have families. You have a whole different group going there, because it's very affordable. So, it's really showing people to come in and experiencing that. So, I'm going to be really adamant about keeping it vibrant, keeping it fresh, keeping it new, keeping it cutting edge. Kind of what we're doing, it's not the right form, but the Global Medical Center, is we're looking at what can we do differently to bring Cleveland back to people back to Cleveland. As we look at connecting things, I'm always saying, as we look at connecting things like, to public auditorium or to the Marriott, however we do that, how do we make it look different? Does the bridge look like a guitar? Does it look like musical instruments? What are we doing, to really, and so as we look at Progressive, same type of thing, I guess I'm just using comparison. What are we going to do to make it look different, right? What are we going to do to get people, when you go to Detroit, you see the big tiger structure in front, what do we have? What photo opportunities can we create? What can we do to really make it an iconic venue?
On that note, I'm just going to close with something I've said many times before, and I'm going to say it again, which is that the idea of building new sports facilities after 25 or 30 years just isn't going to work in Cleveland. We just don't have the resources for the cost that's entailed. We have to think more like Wrigley Field in Chicago and Fenway Park in Boston, and try to make this into an iconic facility that's part of a vibrant neighborhood that can last for 75 or 100 years or more. Otherwise, we're just not a big enough city with enough media income to keep doing it every 25 or 30 years, and so I just put that out there.
All right. If there are no further questions, comments, or concerns, it has been asked by the administration due to the holidays that we move this on second reading suspension. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved in second. If there are no further questions, comments, or concerns, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you so much for coming,
Thank you.
sharing
Happy New Year.
your knowledge and experience, your willingness to serve, and coming before this body is important to us, especially when you're a new appointment, because I think it gives not only us but the public an opportunity to put a name with a face and see
Great.
why it is you were selected. So thank you so
Great,
much.
thank you.
All right. Council Clerk, if you read the next item into the record, please.
Resolution number 2019-0287, confirming the county executive's reappointment of Edward H. Blakemore to serve on the Cuyahoga County Public Library Board of Trustees for the term 1/1/2020 through 12/31/2026.
Director Pomeranz.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. On behalf of the county executive, we submit the following nominee, Edward H. Blakemore, for a 7-year term beginning 1/1/2020 until 12/31/2026. The Cuyahoga County Public Library Board of Trustees serves 47 communities, and its mission is to be at the center of community life by creating an environment where leading lifelong learning and civic engagement thrive. Functionally, the board governs the library's overall operations. And Mr. Blakemore is here today to answer any other questions.
And I'll open it up to the committee if there are any questions for Ms. Pomerantz before we move on to our candidate. All right, there are none. Mr. Blakemore, if you'll step forward, please state your name for the record. Give us a little bit of background and why you'd like to continue to serve.
Sure. Certainly, good morning. I'm
Good morning.
I'm Ed Blakemore. I'm a defense lawyer for Rockwell Automation in Mayfield Heights. I manage the litigation docket for that company. This is home. Went to Orange High School a million years ago, Morehouse College for undergrad, Dayton for law school, and I was a trial lawyer by trade before I went in-house. So I've been in-house as a litigator for about 11 years, first at Eaton, now at Rockwell Automation. So I've been serving on the library board for some time. I'm one of those unique folks because the reason I decided to become a lawyer is because I read about the Sam Shepard case, again, a long time ago, and thought I'd be like the next F. Lee Bailey. And everybody's familiar with that case. Everybody's got an opinion about it. So that really inspired me to kind of get involved in the practice of law and try a lot of cases and help a lot of people. So that book is one that I read when I was 13 years old at the same library that I now get to serve as a former board president and a trustee. So, we're in a unique place as a city here and as a county, just because the library has evolved over the course of time from something more than just, hey, let's go get a book, or hey, let me go help figure out what I need to get for my term paper. Now we're really functioning independently, almost as community hubs in a variety of locales. And so all those places that we serve, we're doing everything from homework centers to workforce development to benefits navigator, all the things that you all are certainly aware, particularly as a result of our partnership with County Executive Budish. So, I'm looking for us to do the same kinds of things and continue to provide additional resources. In certain communities, we're also providing food because we partner with the food bank. In other places where people have reached out and kind of said, hey, we just want office supplies. We spend, I think it's $250,000 every year just as a pass-through for bus passes. And so, we're trying to make sure that we're that community hub so that when people come to our edifices and utilize our resources, they can be served in a variety of different ways. And so I look to continue much of that good work that my fellow board members have done, and certainly look forward to any questions you might have about. And I know I've submitted a resume and some other materials that I'm sure you've reviewed, so should you have any questions, be glad to take them.
All right, I'm going to start with Councilwoman Conwell.
Through the chair to Mr. Blakemore, good morning.
Good morning.
How is the county project going in your opinion? The workforce?
I mean, I think we're making good strides. I think in particular, from a library end, we have at a variety of our locations an opportunity for folks to get direct training on resume writing, job interview skills, all of that kind of stuff. And then as well, at least Benefits Navigator and that kind of stuff has gone relatively well because we have the benefit of a footprint across the entire county spectrum, and not the entire county, but much of the county. And so it gives, I think, this body and some additional breadth and some additional outreach. And so I think that's gone well. And we continue to, at least intend to partner and continue to do that on the go forward.
Are all the county libraries participating?
Yeah, as far as I know, everybody's been trained already on Benefits Navigator, and that's in all of our branches, as far as I know.
And how are you keeping the data? Who comes in and utilizes those type of services?
We have a lot of different data points that appear on our in all of our board meetings, including people that come in. So I'm sure that we're keeping track of that. I don't know exactly what metrics we're keeping track of there, but we certainly keep track of a variety of things. If you ever looked at our board book, at how many people come in, how many people are registering for what class. So I'm sure we've got data on that, and certainly could provide that upon request.
Okay, can you send that to us? Find out what the matrix are.
Sure.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Councilman Miller.
Good morning, Madam Chair, to Mr. Blakemore. Thank you very much for coming in and for your willingness to serve. And I'm wondering if you could elaborate a little bit more on what kind of benefits are available to be accessed through the Navigator program.
The specific benefits that are in the Navigator program? I mean, I don't know that I'm the best person to speak to that particularized issue. I mean, the county executive reached out to us specifically because they wanted more breadth and ability to get out to more people exactly what exactly the different benefits the county provides. And so we've now trained all of the people who are in our individualized branches to do that. So I'm sure I'm not the best person to speak to all of the specific benefits that the county provides in the Navigator program. But the people who actually interact with the people who come to our branches on a daily basis in several different communities are really the better spokespersons for that.
Let me just ask the question maybe a little bit more broadly. My question is as to whether the Navigator program is specifically geared to county benefits, or does it also include state and federal programs like food stamps and child care and such things like that?
Yeah, I don't think I'm the best person to speak to all the different features that are in the Navigator program. I think the county executive actually is the better person to speak to that.
Okay, fine.
Yield to Councilwoman Conwell. I think she and I are.
To my colleague, Mr. Miller, yes, that includes the SNAP benefits and all that work, a little bit of workforce development. That's where you get off into the resumes and stuff. So I just thought he could, Mr. Blakemore could share a little bit more in depth other than the standard things that we do if there was anything additional.
Okay, thank
you both. I think as the navigators, the one thing that I've learned from you coming before this body is that all of the employees, it sounds like, have been trained to assist the constituents as they come in on how to complete the applications. And upon my start with the county, I thought that would be a good venue because, as you said, it covers a large footprint of the county. It's open. Extended hours, and so it is a good conduit for our people in need to be able to access services or at least understand what services are available to them. So that is the starting point. It's not the end-all, be-all, but it is an avenue for them to understand what's available to them. Are there any additional questions? Councilman Gallagher?
On a lighter note, so Dr. Sam do it?
Oh, no, not at all.
In my previous life, I had access to that file and actually access to some of the judges who were prosecutors on that case. And I can tell you, after looking at those pictures and talking to those gentlemen, who, by the way, would never give an opinion, he done did it.
And and again, you can kind of it's amazing. There was a CLE that Cleveland Marshall's Law School put on maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and they brought in Brent Larkin, and they brought in all of Bill Mason's, Dean Boland, all those kind of people who were involved in the third trial, and unfortunately Terry Gilbert was the only person there to kind of represent any kind of opinion that didn't include, Sam should, rot or something. And so it's an interesting case for a variety of reasons. But for me, reading F. Lee Bailey, 27 years old, goes to the United States Supreme Court, is able to convince the federal court that the state court got it wrong, and that maybe you shouldn't put jurors' names in the newspaper, and maybe you shouldn't have, maybe you should actually sequester people, just basic stuff. And that case continues to be cited for its Shepard v. Maxwell 66 continues to be cited over and over and over again anytime there's pre-trial.
It was an
issues.
incredible situation.
Indeed.
Because back then, even now though, they don't do it, but back then the coroner was the power.
Yeah. Sam Gerber did an inquest at Normandy High School and and threw Sam's lawyers out. So there's a lot to that story. But
enough
I think,
to pique your interest. Very good.
Indeed. That's what got me started. So.
Welcome to the library. So any other questions?
I was just going to share that, yes, if you are still enamored about the Sam Shepard case, the coroner's office, when we did medical examiner now, has a big display on the
really?
Sam Shepard case and how he's how it evolved through that from that point of view.
Excellent. Good to know. And Marshall's Law School is now has kept all of those records, and so they're kind of the records custodian on the go forward. So anyone else who wants to get inspired, any of the young people or whatever that may have some interest, that's a good repository of those records.
All right. Well, if there are no further questions, congratulations on getting this far. We're going to move forward. And congratulations on your Trailblazer Award from the Norman S. Biner
Thank you.
Association. So it has also been requested that this move under second reading suspension. So I'll make the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved in second. If there are no further questions, comments, or concerns, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you very much for coming in.
Thanks so much.
And your willingness to continue to serve. We appreciate it very much. Council Clerk, if you read the next item into the record.
Resolution number 2019-0288, confirming the county executive's appointment of Michelle C. Scott Taylor to serve on the Cuyahoga Arts and Culture Board of Trustees for an unexpired term ending 3/31/2020.
And I will turn it over to Director Pomerantz to give us a little bit of background.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On behalf of the County Executive, we submit the following nomination for appointment to the Cuyahoga Arts and Culture Board of Trustees. Dr. Michelle C. Scott Taylor, an unexpired term ending 3/31/2020, replacing Ken Miller. The Cuyahoga Arts and Culture is authorized by Ohio Revised Code, Chapter 3381. The CAC is the public funder for the arts and culture events and has awarded over 1,200 grants to more than 300 organizations serving Cuyahoga County residents. The board consists of 5 members appointed by the county executive, subject to council confirmation, and outlines the qualifications for trustees as a person who has a broad knowledge and experience in the arts and cultural heritage, and requests at least 2 persons devote a major portion of their time to practicing, performing, or teaching art, or who are professional administrators in the field of art and cultural heritage, and shall be qualified electors in Cuyahoga County. Unfortunately, Ken Miller had moved out of the county, which required a replacement. His term would have ended 3/31/2020, so we are respectfully requesting an appointment until 3/31/2020 of Dr. Michelle Scott Taylor, and then we'll be back here soon. But we didn't want to have the 5-member board not have representation until March.
Are there any
And
questions?
Michelle Scott Taylor is here, Dr. Taylor is here also for any questions, as well as the interim executive director, Jill Paulson.
Okay. Are there any questions for Ms. Pomerantz? Councilwoman
Yes.
Conwell, and then Miller.
Through the chair to director, could you list all the members that are the other 4?
Goodness. I usually have that. I know that we have Nancy Mendez, Gwen Garth, Gary Hansen, and Sharna Sherman.
Thank you.
And Sharna is the board president.
Councilman Miller?
Yes, my question is whether the executive has made a decision that the executive also wishes to appoint Ms. Taylor for a full term following this very short, unexpired term. And if the answer to that question is yes, we might consider amending this legislation, perhaps when it gets to council, to appoint for the unexpired term plus an additional term if we get confirmation that that's what the executive wishes.
After conversations with the executive, we wanted to make sure that we were following through the guidelines of council, but he had faith that Dr. Michelle Scott Taylor would be somebody he would want to serve a full term, which is why we wanted to recommend her, but we wanted to respect the rules of council and do whatever we needed to with that regard. So to the answer, long-winded answer is yes.
Okay, okay.
Thank you very much. If Dr. Scott Taylor will come forward, state your name for the record, give us a little bit of background, and share with us why you'd like to serve.
Good morning. Thank
Good
you for
morning.
having me. Happy New Year. I'm Dr. Michelle Scott Taylor. I currently serve as the Chief Program Officer for a nonprofit, College Now Greater Cleveland, where basically I help young people figure out their life after high school, be it 2-year, 4-year college, certificate, apprenticeship, or pursuing work and careers. I grew up in Warrensville Heights, Ohio. I went through that school district from grades kindergarten all the way through. And what was so significant about my educational experience was the extracurriculars that were afforded to me as I, studied academics. I then went on to the University of Akron, where I pursued degrees in political science, sociology, and French. Fell in love with college so much that I decided to stay and get a master's degree from Kent State University in higher education administration, and then on to the University of Pittsburgh to receive my doctorate also in higher education administration. What was most important to me was the fact that a lot of students, a lot of kids like me and others were not afforded opportunities to pursue their passions, their interests, because of the way sometimes our educational systems are set up. And art is really a way that you can enhance education without some of the structures, confines, bureaucracies that a traditional education system affords. I just recently resigned from Progressive Arts Alliance, which is a nonprofit arts organization where I was on the board for approximately 6 or 7 years. I joined that board because of what I thought was the incredible way in which they were able to connect with students in terms of connecting arts, using arts through education, essentially. How can you teach math, reading, writing, English using arts as kind of the lens through which students can understand themselves and then connect that to educational standards that they were learning in the classroom. So I was very fortunate to serve on that board. And so that's really been much of my arts-related experience in that capacity. But in addition, I do a lot in my community in terms of other nonprofits that I serve on, boards that I serve, Global Ambassadors Learning Academy, which infuses Mandarin and Spanish into the educational curriculum. So essentially, I'm a person who really likes to supplement traditional education with other opportunities because I feel like that is the reason I have been able to do the things I've been able to do in my life and also my family's life. So that's a little bit about me.
Excellent. I'll open it up to my colleagues if you have any questions, comments, or concerns. Well, Dr. Taylor.
I'm just enamored.
I was going to say, I think you got...
I'm just trying to...
you bring so much to the table, and I have
you.
had the privilege of seeing you through other committees as it relates to College Now and the wonderful work that you do over there, and beyond just crossing paths in our having mutual relationships. And so I'm excited about your appointment, and I know that you will be a tremendous asset to this. So if there are no further questions, comments, or concerns, again, As I stated with Ms. Augusta, this body appreciates and values when the nominees come before us, share their background, we're able to put a name with a face, and it's also afforded to the public, whomever might be watching or would ever like to review the candidates that have come before us and wonder why or how this person was nominated. It is always great to have that on the record. So I thank you for taking
Thank
the
you.
time out today and coming before us. And if there are no further questions, comments, or concerns, I will take. I would like to follow Mr. Councilman Miller's recommendation, but I'll wait and.
Yeah, this is on that point. So through the chair to the doctor, we've talked about amending the legislation, and if the county exec would like you to continue, and we didn't ask you, is this something that you would like to continue?
I would love to. Thank you.
Thank
I was all prepared to come back.
Okay. Well, I think given the short window, if we can eliminate that burden and allow you to continue forward, I think it is a unanimous consensus that if we can make that amendment during our council meeting next week, that we would all be in favor of that. So with no further delay, I'll move this under second reading suspension. Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved in second. No further questions, comments, or concerns. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All right, thank you very much. It's a move to the full body of the council, and we will attempt to amend the legislation so that you will be prepared to serve the extended term for following March.
Thank you so much.
You're
Appreciate it.
very welcome. Any miscellaneous business from the
Madam
committee?
Chair.
Yes, Councilman Miller.
I would just like to commend the executive for sending us a set of nominees that is both highly capable and very diverse. And so it's good. Thank you.
Excellent. If there's no further miscellaneous business, then this meeting is adjourned. Dr. Taylor?